Everything in this program has been building to this concept. At ACC, you learn to identify whether coaching behaviors are present. At PCC, you learn to evaluate depth and consistency. Now we're naming what separates PCC-level depth from MCC-level mastery. Artistry. Artistry is not a vague feel-good word. It has specific evaluator considerations behind it. And by the end of this video, you'll know how to recognize it, rate it, and distinguish it from depth using behavioral evidence. Your listening as an evaluator develops the same way coaching develops. At ACC, you listened analytically, tracking specific behaviors against specific statements. Was A3.1 present? Was A6.2 demonstrated? At PCC, you listen relationally, tracking patterns across the session. Depth, consistency, integration. Your evaluation was about through lines, not individual moments. At MCC, you listen holistically. The session as a whole, the flow between moments, the places where separating coach move from natural conversation becomes impossible. Your body responds to MCC coaching before your checklist does. That response is data, the first signal that you're witnessing artistry. 3 considerations that don't exist at ACC or PCC. Extent of demonstration, how fully the behavior shows up across the session. Not just present, not just consistent, but complete and pervasive. Extent of artistry. Is the response creative, fluid, skillful, impactful? Does it carry a quality that goes beyond competent execution into something that surprises? Extent of uniqueness. Is this distinctly this coach's way of being, in genuine service of this specific client in this specific moment? These considerations transform what you're evaluating. You're asking how the coach did it and who they were while doing it, not just what they did. Every coach has a style. Some are quiet and spacious, some are direct and energetic, some are warm and narrative-driven. Style develops naturally and varies enormously among excellent coaches at every level. Artistry is different. Artistry is when the coach's responses are so precisely calibrated to this client in this moment that no other coach would have said exactly that, and yet it lands perfectly. It's the intersection of deep competence and authentic self-expression. The coach isn't performing a role. They're being themselves in a way that happens to be exactly what this client needs. 2 MCCs can look completely different in their approach, and both demonstrate exemplary artistry. This is the clearest diagnostic I can give you for the PCC to MCC line. If you can see the coaching model the coach is using, if you can identify that was a grow question, or that was a solutions-focused intervention, or they're using clean language here, it's PCC. The coaching is excellent, well executed, skillful, and the methodology is visible. If the coaching flows so naturally that you cannot identify the model underneath, the methodology is still there. It's just so deeply internalized that it disappears. That's MCC. The methodology doesn't go away at mastery level. It becomes the coach's instinct rather than their tool. And instinct doesn't look like technique. Consider an agreement sequence across all 3 levels. At ACC, the coach explores the agenda with structured questions. The behavior is present. You can point to the moment it happened and name the statement. At PCC, the coach partners in meaning-focused exploration, deep, well-paced, client-led. You see the skill in how the partnership unfolds. At MCC, the coach asks one question. The client's response contains the entire agenda. The coach simply reflects it back. Agreement co-created in under 90 seconds, and you can identify where the coach's contribution ends and the client's self-direction begins. That's seamlessness. That's the artistry. The coaching is so woven into the conversation that the conversation appears to coach itself. The meets to below distinction at MCC is where formulaic coaching gets exposed. Meets at MCC means the coach does this with ease, naturally customized, few hesitancies. This is mastery. Meets at MCC is what most coaches aspire to across their entire career. Below means the behavior is present, but formulaic or inconsistent with the client's purpose and pace. The coaching is competent, perhaps impressive, but it carries a quality of performing mastery rather than being mastery. Formulaic at MCC is the equivalent of absent at ACC. That comparison tells you how demanding this threshold really is. Meets at MCC is consistent, customized, effortless mastery. The coaching is excellent throughout. Most MCC sessions will have significant portions at meets level, and that's not a limitation. That's mastery in action. Exceeds is reserved for moments that surprise even experienced MCCs. The coach does something so precisely right, so perfectly attuned to the moment, that excellent doesn't capture it. These moments feel like the coaching and the client's discovery became one event. Rating every moment as exceeds is all bias. Most MCC sessions include both meets and exceeds. Your evaluation skill lives in distinguishing them with evidence rather than defaulting to the top of the scale because the coaching feels impressive. You will mentor coaches at all three credential levels. ACC candidates who need to hear whether fundamental behaviors are present. PCC candidates who need to understand where depth drops. MCC candidates who need to notice where technique is still visible. The ability to place any coaching behavior on the ACC to PCC to MCC spectrum with specific behavioral statement evidence is what makes your feedback actionable rather than aspirational. When you can say, this moment is PCC level depth, consistent with marker 6.3, and here's what MCC artistry would look like at this same moment, you're delivering calibration in service of the client's actual developmental edge. Module 7 gave you ACC bars fluency, the precision instrument for evaluating fundamentals. Module 8 added ACC to PCC calibration, distinguishing competence from depth using marker language. Module 9 adds the final layer, PCC to MCC, the most subtle distinction in the evaluation system. You can now place any coaching behavior on the full spectrum and cite the specific evidence that puts it there. That calibration skill serves every mentor coaching conversation you'll ever have. Whether your client is targeting ACC, PCC, or MCC, you know where their coaching sits on the spectrum, and you can name exactly why. That's the capstone skill of this evaluation sequence.